The Raptor is one of the most mobile tanks in the entire game, and when built right, is able to launch almost 2 million effective HP from the skies onto your unsuspecting victims below. This is a completely extensive, updated guide on how to build and play your Raptor, covering every single aspect, including investment level, weapons, drones, and much more, so you can easily get the most value out of your Raptor. And for weapons specifically, I'll only cover the non-meta choices that work well with Raptor at the time of recording this guide, including its signature weapons. But I'll also give general recommendations based on what type of weapon Raptor likes best. So even if I didn't mention the ones that you were hoping to see, or the top meta weapons, you can get an idea of what works best with it. And if any information is outdated and I haven't gotten around to making an updated Raptor guide yet, or you just have any questions in general, just leave a comment and ask. I do try my best to respond to any questions you might have, so please don't hesitate to leave one. The Raptor showcased in this video will be Mark III with complete investment. Unfortunately, like every single tank in the game, Raptor needs significant investment in order to get going, and is generally not the most free-to-play friendly robot. A Mark II Raptor with a more free-to-play oriented setup will make select appearances though, and it will have its own sections scattered throughout the guide with its own mark displayed in the top corner. But I will be referring to the Mark III one unless otherwise indicated. This guide is targeted for players mainly in Masters and Champions League, and Raptor will be evaluated at a Champion League level. So if you are in the lower league, what I say can still be applied, but take the guide with a grain of salt, since some builds, especially Raptor, will perform differently and better in the lower leagues. And any meta gear that's in significant danger of getting nerfed at the time of recording this guide will not be specifically mentioned unless really important. So make sure to see the pinned comment for anything on meta gear, along with updates, extras, and post-video fixes, which can be very important. So I really recommend checking it out. But with all of that out of the way, let's fly right into it. The Raptor was released in the 10.1 update as the premium meta tank, just like almost every tank before and after it. It had almost infinite reflector uptime, and it could get to you almost anywhere on the map. Throw in a prime Avalon, higher durability extenders, triple amplifiers, and constant healing from unstable conduit, and you have destruction. Many nerfs later, and it's definitely more balanced. Raptor's firepower is actually kind of bad, carrying 2 light and 1 heavy weapon, which is actually tied for the lowest amount when compared to all the other tier 4 tanks. So while damage and crazy living legend streaks is not Raptor's forte, it can perform well in other areas like being a damage sponge, and that's exactly what its ability is focused on. Raptor's ability is called Comet Splash, and when activated, Raptor jumps in the direction you're facing, activating a reflector shield that blocks 30% and reflects 15% of the base damage done to Raptor by an enemy, and this reflector is active the entire time you are airborne. Pressing the ability again in mid-air allows Raptor to plummet down at a steep angle, not stopping until it hits the ground and dealing a blast of 30,000 damage. During this jump, you can travel around 150 to 200 meters, at quite a low altitude, barely getting over these buildings in Shenzhen. Once you land, Raptor activates a second built-in weapon that automatically hits all enemies in range. This second built-in weapon lasts for 7 seconds, during which your reflector turns off. Both of these weapons together deal a total of 205,000 damage provided everything hits, and they both have a range of 100 meters. The built-in weapons also heal Raptor based on the amount of damage they do. At base, the 205,000 damage done will heal Raptor for around 85,000 HP. The healing power also scales 1-to-1 with the amount of damage boosts you have. For example, adding a 100% damage boost makes the built-in weapon heal for 100% more, so around 170,000 HP. Raptor has 2 max charges of Comet Splash, and you can only activate another ability when both built-in weapons stop firing. One of the most important parts of Comet Splash is its cooldown, which is the longest ability cooldown in the entire game, at 35 seconds per charge, which you have to be super mindful about managing in combat. Since I'm referring to a Mark III Raptor, it also gets a 25% gray damage reduction, which the Mark II one does not get. This may not look big, but leveling it up also comes with more HP, which is the highest robot HP in the entire game as of recording, with 510,000. And this is more than some titans. But what's 100k HP and 25% gray damage resistance actually gonna do? Well, using a simple durability test with the only difference being the level of the Raptor, the Mark III one survives for around 3 times as long as the Mark II Raptor. And this isn't just a Raptor specific problem. Most tanks, even meta ones, typically require every possible investment be made before they live up to the pathway, and will struggle to compete before that. Unfortunately, in the higher leagues, even a maxed out Raptor can have a hard time against the meta. And with Mark II, this problem is even more noticeable. So the Raptor is not really a free-to-play friendly robot. And if you are in Champion League, a Mark II Raptor can't really get the job done anymore, but in any other league, provided your other areas are being leveled up as well, Mark II will serve you for the time being, and you have time to upgrade it before getting to champs. Raptor's investment list, which is what each aspect of investment's priority is, after you've gotten it to Mark II with the base specialization path unlocked and have a low-level drone, looks something like Mark III, pilot skills, specializations, weapons, and finally drones, with all of them necessary. And while it is ordered, the difference between each investment is small enough that anything could go anywhere, so pick your poison. As for replaceability, you can basically replace the Raptor with any other tank at the same level of investment, or a meta tank at a smaller investment and get pretty much the same results with any of them, so Raptor is super replaceable. Although, when using its optimal build, Raptor is probably the most mobile tank in the game, so there's a case of using Raptor over the other options if you're going to be doing more hopping between beacons. Raptor can be dropped at any time during the game before Titans come out, since you'll pretty much get bullied by them and use them for free kill or to charge up a nuclear amplifier. And you can't do anything because of the firepower issue. When dropped, you want to immediately head towards uncapped beacons to snag them, or ones that are being fought over, and get into a good old face brawl. Raptor's strong suit is its high health and mobility with a specific setup, so you want to use that to your advantage and hop in and out of situations depending on your remaining durability. So it's very important to keep an eye out on the top left corner. But having a 200-meter jump isn't exactly what I would consider mobile, especially because of how slow Raptor is at base with almost no meaningful ways to get speed on it. And this is where the first part of its optimal build comes in: jump unit. As a bit of a spoiler, the jump unit is Raptor's best module in almost every scenario due to the super jump technique. By pressing the module and the ability button at the same exact time, which isn't that difficult to execute, Raptor goes a little bit further than normal. Its jump range now becomes higher, and you now travel for around 500 to 650 meters in one jump. And you can also extend this even further. By completely letting go of your movement key before you hit the ground, Raptor will slide a couple hundred meters more depending on the incline of your descent, which can be super helpful if you need to get that little bit of extra distance towards or away from your target. Again, Raptor has the longest ability cooldown in the game, so you want to be super mindful about using them wisely and not wasting them on doing nothing. Typically, you want to extend the time for as long as possible before using them, which can only really be done by using a protective mothership, but it is worth noting. EMP and lockdown are some of the most important things to watch out for, as both of them will completely stop a Raptor from using its abilities and getting out of a bad situation. And almost every meta has enough firepower to quickly chip through Raptor's defenses, so having immunity against those effects or staying away from bots that can apply them or have too much damage is very recommended. The Raptor has two different dedicated pilots, Gloria Earhart and Gina Bertini. Starting with Gloria, she provides an extra 4,000 damage to your ability, yay, and a 3-second EMP. And honestly, this EMP can actually be so helpful even though it's so short, as there are many situations where it's applicable. And although it may not seem like it, 3 seconds can be all it takes for you or your team to take out an annoying enemy. And the EMP also applies to multiple enemies at the same time, along with being on demand. Gina Bertini, on the other hand, provides a 30% speed bonus and 15% extra repairs during the 7 seconds where your ability is active. And well, the speed bonus isn't really good if you're running a jump unit, which you probably should be. And how do you feel about 13,000 more repaired health? That is literally 2 seconds of the mechanic skill worth of healing, so it's really bad. Gloria is just straight up better for Raptor, and the only time I would suggest using Gina is if you already upgraded her, since it's a massive waste of Memorium to switch. As for pilot skills, oh boy, get ready. Clever Survivor should be your first pick no matter what, since it gives an extra charge of Raptor's ability at 50% HP. Out of every robot in the game with Clever Survivor, it definitely affects the Raptor the most, since it gives you a free charge that you would have otherwise had to wait 35 seconds for. And it doesn't interrupt the charge that's already recharging, so it's a no-brainer choice. Second is health skills, which include Tough Guy, Cautious Pilot, and Armor Expert. This is the main source of Raptor's extra HP, and how you boost your Raptor to almost 1,000,000 HP on drop. On a pretty much equal level to health skills are healing skills, as Jump Unit cuts out a major healing source, so stacking healing from other places is necessary to keeping it alive. Wonder Worker and Mechanic are the two I would select, with the others okay, but with how competitive Raptor's pilot skills get, they fade into obscurity quickly. On another pretty much equal level are defense skills like Invulnerable Raider and Stubborn Warrior, although this one is probably superior due to its conditions being easier to activate. The only module skill worth running on Raptor is Dodger, as it can't really make use of Foolhardy Quarter and Modules Expert. The only skills you want to avoid are damage and speed skills, since they basically do nothing for your Raptor. I feel as if it's important to discuss which ones you actually want on Raptor, as it gets quite hard to choose since so many different ones are good for it. Clever takes the first slot automatically, and having at least one repair skill is a good rule of thumb. You technically don't need to, as there's another major healing source that Raptor can take advantage of. The other 5 slots can be a combination of defense and HP skills, with Dodger thrown in somewhere, and if you need them ordered based on importance as you unlock the pilot's level, here's a handy list. But make sure not to change it if you roll into one that's on here. For lower level drones, the almighty Showdown is best in slot across the board. This is the second thing that makes up the optimal Raptor build, and it's the only drone in the game that gives enough healing to use the Jump Unit module from its second ability, which repairs 30% of max HP if you take a little bit of damage. Having this plus any other source of healing means you will stay at max green HP for pretty much the entire time Raptor is on field. For this reason, if you don't run Showdown, Jump Unit is not worth it and makes Raptor lose its only edge over its competition. No other level 4 drone can come close to what Showdown does for Raptor, and it isn't worth running any other drone on it, since they will break the whole synergy between your build. For drones at max level, oh look! It's the Showdown. Yep, same reasoning as before, although some others are good too. Hawkeye is Raptor's signature drone and gives a built-in weapon that shoots forever and repairs you, extra durability, and shield breaker on reflector, which is only active during airtime. And finally, 10% extra gray damage resistance for a total of 35% at Mark 3. And if you run this drone, you can't really get away with Jump Unit anymore since you lose a lot of healing power, and it's more valuable to just run a healing module instead. But it is more expensive to equip, and you do lose your mobility edge for more repair power. The Tensor drone is also a drone that Raptor can make full use of, and it gives a flame built-in weapon, extra durability, even more durability when the reflector is active, and 5 seconds of gray resistance after your reflector ends. This value is set at 95% at the time of recording, but I am confident that this will be a part of the drone that will be nerfed in the future and will be updated in the pinned comment, so I wouldn't recommend upgrading it since you never know what they'll do. Tensor is another drone that you want to be running a healing module on, as Raptor will not have enough healing if it's just using Jump Unit. I kind of feel as if I spoiled all of the active modules already, so I'll just give a quick rundown. Jump Unit plus Showdown is the best build, and use Repair Units or Unstable Conduit for every other build. For passive modules, Raptor has access to the Brawler pathway. This is better than both defense and attack since the benefits are really small compared to Brawler. The first slot has Repair Amplifier and the Self-Fix Unit, and there's literally no reason to use the Self-Fix Unit ever. The Repair Amp provides a boost to your healing, gray HP healing, and defense points at max stacks. It also provides its own healing, so it basically does what a Self-Fix Unit does, but better. Why does this thing even exist? I have no idea. Maybe it'll get a buff in the future, so I'd keep my eye out. The second slot has an option of Immune Amplifier and Last Stand. The Immune Amplifier gives a boost to your max HP when you take damage. It's around a 15 to 16% increase at max, and based on these thresholds, you get immunity to certain negative effects. But it does take a whopping 1.2 million damage to charge completely. You could pick either or and do fine with both, but in my opinion, Immune Amp beats the Last Stand slightly since you have so much starting HP. And if you're activating the Last Stand, you'll most likely be dead soon anyway. It is also worth mentioning that the Brawler pathway provides 30 defense points simply for leveling it up, which when combined with a maxed Repair Amp and 1 Invulnerable Raider stack gives 90 defense points in total, or a 47% reduction in damage, which means Raptor has almost 2 million effective max HP. Actually insane. For weapons, Raptor really likes gear that does high damage with consistent output. Now, these don't necessarily have to be brawling weapons, as long as their damage is up to standards and they are consistent. Raptor can't really make good use out of bursty weapons because of its locked ability timings. And these types of weapons typically have lower cycle DPS, and you'll generally be locked in combat for periods of at least 7 seconds. And having higher cycle DPS, even if you leave right after you fight, is preferable. Raptor in particular really benefits from equipping meta weapons on it so that it can effectively take out other brawlers. So if you manage to get your hands on some meta weapons, Raptor is a good bot to put them on. And the pinned comment will have the current meta weapons and how good they are for it, so make sure to check it out. Athos and Aramis are 350 meter range vacuum weapons which heal 30% of the damage you do with them. So this much healing for a full clip. And although they are Raptor's signature weapons and also my favorite weapons in the game, they are unfortunately not very good for it. They trade in some of their DPS in exchange for healing, so unless you're running a Raptor that doesn't have enough healing, which you shouldn't be running Raptor in the first place, I would not recommend them on Raptor. While they do fire for a decent amount of time, the reload is too long and is best suited for other bots. Kieran and Gangle are 350 meter electric ball weapons that are indeed very consistent in their damage output. While a little bit worse than some of the other options on the list, it's their rust and crumble effects that makes them good for Raptor. And just by having them equipped, they cut down enemy healing and gray damage recovery by a ton, which can help to tip the brawl in your favor. The most bursty feeling weapons on the list, Hammer and Cudgel, are 500 meter range blast shotguns that do high enough burst damage that their cycle DPS is compensated and brought up because of it. This 500 meter tag is a bit of a scam as they do have spread and will only start doing damage at significantly closer than that, but they also feature a blast charge effect, which builds up and detonates a fixed 25,000 damage to the enemy and its surroundings. Nucleon and Quarker are 500 meter range energy machine guns with infinite ammo. And you can see where I'm going with this. While having around the same burst DPS as Athos and Aramis, the fact that they can fire infinitely means they can brawl sustainably 100% of the time and have the most cycle DPS out of any other option since they don't need to reload. Devastator and Scatter are 200 meter range sonic shotguns that do 100% gray damage, so they're really good for taking down other bots that don't have gray resistance. You do want to be closer than 200 meters though, as they have spread, but they do fire for long enough and have a high enough DPS that I don't consider them pure burst weapons. But once they're empty, and it usually isn't worth sticking around and taking unnecessary damage. So I would only run them with Super Jump Raptor so you have an escape option. Finally, Brisant and Splinter are 600 meter range kinetic slug shotguns that slow the enemy you're firing at. It typically isn't enough to make a major difference, but I guess it's there. The slugs also have a spread, so no full damage at their full range, and they're basically the more consistent version of the blast shotguns. Their DPS is almost the same, so if you're struggling to pick between these two, just use the ones that feel the best. And that is it. Thank you so much for watching this one, and make sure to let me know what you're running in the community tab or comment section. But I will not take any more of your time, and I will see you in the next one.